In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the basic concepts around access management components. So as you can see on the screen, I have drawn out a sticky man figure here and represented him as subject. There's a bowl of fruits on the right hand side, which we have represented as object. The basic of access management involves interactions between a subject and an object. Essentially, subject is the one that particularly acts or performs an action on an object, on a group of objects, for example. Subject doesn't have to be a person. It could be a person, it could be a system. In a typical example of a web of a person browsing the internet, it might behoove us to look at the web browser as being the subject, the object being the application, the web application that the web browser is accessing. Note that the web browser acts on behalf of a user, of a person, and for all intents and purposes they become synonymous in the sense that the actions appear to be performed by the user as opposed to the web browser. The web browser in itself may do some HTTP specific verbs or actions onto the application, but the application itself might have defined certain verbs or actions that the user may choose to be able to perform in it. But suffice it to know that there's a subject, there's an object, and there is an action. These are the fundamental three essential components behind the pure access management paradigm. Now, access management is not anything new. It has been around for quite a while, ever since we have had security on things, physical security, logical security, and so on and so forth. One of the basic mechanisms that we have traditionally used is what is known as ACLs, or access control lists. Unix file system ACLs come to mind off the top of my head. These ACLs are essentially a list of, or a tabulated list of permissions that a subject may have on an object. In case of Unix file systems, the permissions are segregated into three groups: the owner permissions, the owner group permissions, and the other permissions. So as it would simply imply, for a particular file within the Unix file system, the owner would have a specific set of permissions. In Unix systems, it's usually it is usually specified as bits with the bit numbers of representing at certain positions certain operations that the user is able to perform. For example, read, write, X are the first three bits of the byte that form the permissions set. Similarly for the group and the others and so on. I don't think those details are important so much as to know that the access management paradigm has the ability to specify for a subject, for either the owner or the group or the owner group, to perform a predefined set of verbs or actions: read, write, or execute on an object. In this particular case, the object would be the particular file or folder to which this permission bit is set. In identity access management systems, most of them, they take a slightly different view, a more fine-grained view of specifying actions and what actions can be performed on an object by a particular user or a particular group of users. So and this is done using what are known as policies. Policies are similar to ACLs, however they have a bit more fineness into them. Policies constitute of users, resources, in this case objects, and actions that one could perform on a particular object, plus environmental parameters. These are parameters that apply to that particular action at that point in time. For example, it could be the date of access, time of access, or I should say time of action, date of action, and the location from which the subject is performing that action. It could be a variety of things that are not essentially captured in the other parameters that are used to define a policy. As one can see, there could be a lot more detail in users as opposed to simply segregating them into owner, group, and other. One could define users based on a user's attribute, as we saw in the previous identity management video. Users eventually, at some point, once an identity is established, are assigned or are attributable or mappable to attributes. So attributes could be used to define the population for which a particular policies could apply, and multiple policies could be applied, could be created used for the same resource for similar actions, but with differing user groups perhaps, or user populations. In addition, the user definition could be based on group membership, the groups that a particular user could belong to. It could also be that the user definition can be multi-attribute based criteria. If a user object within the user repository were to contain multiple attributes, one could create a criteria that says, allow this person read access to a file, read a file if the person is in the sales department and has the job title of manager, for example, and things like that. And then you can also, within the policy, specify the date and time of access. Allow the user access only between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., not afterwards, and only when accessing it from within the organizational premises, as opposed to when accessing via VPN or so on. So those are some of the basic things to understand about policies. Quickly looking at these two, it's important to understand, and at a high level at least, quickly be able to compare and contrast between access control lists and policies to have an understanding of the basic concepts of access management. There are a few more other items that one needs to know within access management, and they have to do with some acronyms that are used and their relationship to access management solution deployments. They are PEP, Policy Enforcement Point, Policy Definition Point, PDP, Policy Administration Point, PAP. We'll cover these in the next video and perhaps go over what a typical deployment of the components of an access management solution would look like. See you in the next video.